Okay, so this week our printer, our DTF Coldesi 12h2 printer, decided to stop printing midway through jobs. The red lights, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with back here, the red lights turned on, which generally means the head's blown. The head wasn't blown though, it was a brand new head and we hadn't changed any parts or anything, so the odds that it was the head was very low. So I assumed it was this board had blown. I've heard that the boards can, blow out or whatever. So Coldesi sent me a head because they were certain it was the head. Overnighted that, got that replaced. Ended up not being the head. So then the next day they overnighted a board, and in the process of me checking, taking out the wiring, I noticed that this black cord right here had snapped off. So that was obviously the problem. So as a quick fix, just to get me through the rest of that day, we were super busy, I just fed the black cord, stripped it, fed it back through, and then hot glued the top of it to hold it in place. That worked for, probably 3-4 hours. And then it suddenly started erroring out again. I was getting codes on the program saying communication between board and head or something was faulty. A lot of weird errors. Anyway, so I might have gone a little overboard and took a risky chance with doing it this way, because now who knows, maybe I did actually blow the board. But since I have a backup one, I guess I was willing to take that risk. So anyway, in the process of starting to fix this and kind of looking at the wiring, I found out that this wire, the board communication wire, had worn a hole in it. So there was bare wire exposed there. So I taped that off. That didn't seem to fix it. So now Coldesi overnighted me a new communication board wire. So that's what I'm going to put in today. We'll see if it fixes it. If it's not the communication wire, then we're going to have to replace the board too. But now I've got pretty much every part I could possibly need. So I'm going to walk through how to replace that cable. So here we go. Okay, so I've unscrewed this. This is grounded here. So I got that screw. We're going to take this off. So now we've got this wire here, and we're going to go around to the other side. You can see this machine is completely torn apart, for obvious reasons, as I've explained. And you can see this wire is cranked and cracked, and when it's going back and forth inside of that over and over and over and over again, eventually it's going to fail. And that already happened with the power cable. That's why a lot of these plastic brackets or whatever are off, is because I had recently replaced this power cable, because it did the same thing. It shorted out, caused a big old puff of smoke. It was concerning, obviously, but we got it fixed. So now it's the next cable that went out. So we're going to go ahead and unplug this here, unscrew this here. So we're going to get this whole cable off. Okay, so I've unscrewed the board, just disconnected it so it's free, not connected to the metal below it. And if it's a good, it's a good idea to take a picture of how everything is plugged in before you completely undo it, so you know where to put them when you're on to putting it back together. So I've already done that, but this is how it looks now. Okay, so I've disconnected this cable, pulled the board off. These plastic pieces in here, they just snap off and they just snap back into place. So to be able to get the wiring out, you're gonna have to remove a bunch of these, which you can see that I've already done. So we've got those removed. I'll remove those last few. And then back here, you're gonna have to unscrew this, and I believe there's another one. Yeah, right there. You're gonna have to unscrew those so the wire can pass through it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've snapped off all the plastics. I've unscrewed the harness brackets, I guess you'd call them. So now we got this wire kind of hanging loose. I'm gonna pull it through out the back side. Be gentle here, make sure I don't rip any of the cords. Peek on the other side, okay. We're good. Okay, so now we've got this mangled old wire out, so we're gonna put the new one in. Real quick before I do that, this is what it looked like. So the black piece had completely snapped off. I didn't have an extra one of these. I think they're JST. There's some, whatever kind of clamp or plug-in this is. I obviously didn't have an extra one, so I kind of just ghetto glued it on there. It did work for a while, but eventually it failed. So like I said earlier, I hope I didn't fry the board or something. But it also had this this going on, so that's definitely not good. So anyway, we're gonna replace the whole wire, see if our board's still live, and hopefully we stop getting those error codes. That there. Now we're gonna screw in ground wire to the top one. That's where it was. Okay, I got the wire fed back through. I'm gonna go ahead and attach this all back together, but I'm not gonna put together this. I'm not gonna put this all back. I'm actually just gonna fire it up without doing all that extra work, just to make sure that it actually fixes it before we do that. So I'm gonna screw this back into the ground, plug that in, plug the other pieces in, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we got it all, new wire all hooked back up. As I said, I didn't properly get all that stuff done, but at least it's on there. So we're gonna find out real quick if I fried that board by forcing that black wire that had snapped off back in there just to get myself 6 hours more of printing. Okay, we'll see. Okay, did I forget anything? I hope not. Taking a while to initialize here. Okay, so I didn't have my program running, so I'm going to assume that was why. Now we're going to try it again, turn it on. Nothing's happening. Uh-oh. Okay, so it's saying main board, system info, waiting for optic fiber connecting the signal of the headboard. So I'm gonna have to replace that board. Pretty sure that's blown now. Okay, I got our shiny new board here. Just gonna disconnect everything, pretty much plug and play, and see if this new board with the new wiring is gonna work. Okay, got the new board plugged in. Everything back in its spot. Ground is it there, got that plugged in, got that plugged in. Okay, so everything's plugged in. We got the new wiring. Moment of truth. Turn this baby on. Got a green light back there, that's what we want to see. The last one wasn't doing that. It's initializing. Ooh. Getting movement. No red light kicking off. Okay. Do a little test. Does not want to test. We lost all the lights. Okay, so last errors we got were the optical fiber connection between the main board and the headboard failed to set waveform parameter, failed to execute the system initialization. So the solutions that it gives you: check whether the connection of the board is proper, check whether the power of each board is normal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back through and double check that all my connections are nice and solid, and I put in a call to Coldesi too, so we'll see what they say. It's getting power, all good. As soon as it tries to move, it dies out. Okay, at this point I've replaced the main board in the back. I replaced the print head board. I've replaced the wire that leads to the board. Coldesi is very slow to respond, so it took a couple hours to hear from a tech. He's now stumped, and these are what kind of error messages we're getting. I'm waiting for them to contact me back again to find out if I suspect it's software related. So I'm waiting for them to get a hold of me and see if they can figure out what it is. Okay, so here we are a few hours later, brand new headboard, brand new main board. Printer was acting funny, didn't didn't do tests properly, would kind of go, move to print, the green lights would be on top, and then they would just flash red real quick and turn off. Coldesi and I talked for quite a while. At this point, they're stumped. We don't really know what it is. Thinking maybe it's that power board that's gone bad. So I guess we'll see. All right, so in the process of tinkering around with things, Coldesi's closed now. Basically stumped, not really sure. Like I mentioned earlier, the power board maybe is what they think's wrong. But they also sent me a diagram for this. You can see that it says 24 volt live, ground, 42 volt, right? So when I got this power wire, the one that I'm recording right now, that's the power wire. The 42V and the ground were flipped. That's how it came. So when I received the part, they were flipped back opposite of this. According to the diagram they sent, because they were trying to have me check the power supply coming to the board, they're supposed to look like this, but that's not how the power wire came. Also, this printer's been running for months, perfectly fine, with the power wires flipped from how they are now, where the ground was on the outside and the 42 volt was on the inside. I've been working for months like that. And I'd mentioned that to Coldesi, that it doesn't match the diagram they sent, and the tech there was like, well, if it's been working for months, obviously that's not the problem. It wouldn't have worked if they were backwards. So I took a multimeter and I tested these, put the, when they were backwards, how they were when I got it. Put the live one on the live, which was in the middle here, and then I put the ground on the outside and it showed negative 42. So then I flipped them around and put the negative on the positive and the positive on the negative, and then it read 42. So that told me that they actually were flipped. Regardless if it worked in the past or not, these wires were flipped. So just now I flipped them around, so now they're matching the diagram they sent me, which is live, ground, ground, live. I also took a look at the board that I'd taken off, and you can see that it says 24, ground, ground, 24. So then I took this board off, the brand new one, and it says the same thing. So not only does the diagram Coldesi sent me say that it should be like this, so does this board. It actually says that. So I went ahead and switched these. I guess there's a chance I'm gonna fry this brand new board if I'm wrong. But I mean, at this point, we've been dead in the water for over a week. It's a big mystery to Coldesi. I don't know what else to do, so I flipped them, and now I'm gonna turn it on and hope it doesn't smoke. Okay, so nothing happened. That's odd. Okay, no power at all. Damn. Okay, so when I had the wires flipped like I just showed you guys, it didn't even power on. So I put them back to how they were, and it at least powers on. The strange thing is, though, is that wire loops all the way back around and connects to that. And as you can see on that 42, the yellow is actually the ground, but up here the yellow is labeled hot. So the reason that it's been working is because whenever they put this wiring harness together and shipped it to me, they had them backwards. So that means we have a ground. It means they're correct like that based on how they're wired on this end. Another little aspect to this mystery is that the pump on the back, when the machine's powered on now, is going non-stop. It just keeps going, doesn't turn itself off, just continually pumps, or pretends to pump. So actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unplug this pump and then try it and see if it works. I don't know if maybe this pump has failed, and so it's continually drawing more power to the pump than it should, and it's draining power from other places like the head. So I'm gonna unplug this and we'll see what happens. Okay, so pump is unplugged. I unplugged it down at the bottom. Let's fire it up, see what happens. Already taking way too long to initialize. Shouldn't have taken that long. Run test. It keeps engaging these pumps when I do a test, which is also not normal. Okay, still got a pretty bad problem. Okay, next thing I'm gonna try here, the pump thing didn't work. Next thing I'm gonna try is the fan inside of this housing here. It sucks the film down as you're printing. It burnt out, I don't know, a couple months ago. So I'm gonna replace that, and because I had actually ordered the part and just didn't have time to replace it. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace that, and I guess hope there was a short that was shorting something out in that piece. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, so I took this whole housing apart to replace the burnt out fan because I thought maybe the burnt out fan was shorting something out, causing all these issues upstream, and put in the fan that Coldesi shipped me, and it's the wrong attachment. So now that was all a waste. So I'm gonna have to let them know they sent the wrong fan or send me new wiring or something. So I'm gonna put this back together, but I'm gonna leave the fan unplugged. Actually, I'm just gonna take that out, and then see if that helps somehow. Okay, so I put that all back together. Like I said, they shipped me the wrong part, so the fan is now just missing under there. It's not plugged in anymore, so maybe that'll bypass some sort of hiccup that it was causing. Let's go ahead and turn it back on. See how it behaves. Taking a lot longer to initialize than it should, so already I can tell this probably made no difference. I know I don't have any film down, but I'm gonna test it anyway. For some reason it's cleaning. It's supposed to be testing. So at least it returned home, but it's still kind of cleaning while it's testing. All right, so we're like day 5 into this whole ordeal. Already started with the print head, that wasn't it. Headboard, that wasn't it. The optic wire that leads from the headboard to the main board, that wasn't it. Replaced the main board, that wasn't it. Now we're replacing the power board. So Coldesi sent me a new one. So I'm gonna take a picture of where everything is, specifically the 42 volt and the 24 volt wires. Take a picture of how everything looks, and then I'm gonna swap it out for this one. Coldesi did send me a little email explaining that there's apparently a few versions of this board, so I will have to like follow their instructions a bit, but we're gonna swap this out. All right, this is what Coldesi sent as a diagram. This is what I got. So obviously I didn't get that version, which is fine. They only sent that to show me in case I did get that version. But it looks like I got the exact same version that my machine was or is. So this is what we're gonna replace it with. I have my old board taken off now. This is the back of it. I'm not like a computer whiz or anything, so I don't know what that means, but that doesn't really look right. So I don't know, maybe this is damaged, we'll see. But anyway, so I took this one off. Now we're gonna put the new guy on, and hopefully we're up and running. All right, so this is my old power board. You notice that there's a plug-in right there. That's where one of the cables was plugged. On the new one, it's got this. On the diagram, it says 110 jumper. So that's the only difference. So now I don't know where to plug in this plug-in. So I called Coldesi, and if you know how that goes, they couldn't get anybody on the phone to tell me what to do about that, so now I'm waiting for a phone call. Okay, so I got a message back from Coldesi, and they're saying that the cord that I had originally that was plugged in here on this board is now going to go into here. So previously on this board there was nothing plugged in there, but I did have a cable plugged in there. On the new board it's got this jumper piece is what they're calling it, and now I'm going to plug what was in there instead. So we'll give that a shot. New power board installed. Should have the wires all in the right position now. This wire, which was previously plugged in on the different spot in the board, is now plugged in where they told me it should be plugged in. Got my grounds in, so I guess we're on our 5th, 6th, 7th moment of truth here. I'm gonna double check some things and then I'm gonna turn it on and see what happens. All right, here we go, powering on. Not a good sign. It's initializing way too long. Dang. I'm gonna turn it off and re-inspect. All right, it initialized. We got green lights on top. I'm gonna run a test and see if it shits out again. God damn it. Now what I've done, since the power board didn't make any difference whatsoever, is I've swapped out the print head with some other head I had laying around. Maybe some kind of fluky deal where the brand new print head was bad and it's causing the power to fail as soon as it tries to print anything. So initializing with the new head, we'll see if it'll do a test print. Does not want to do a test print. Won't even try to do it. So as it sits now, we're having the same exact problem. As soon as I power on the machine, it initializes, which takes longer than it should. The pump immediately starts running, so I don't know if that's a back-end setting that got wiped during one of these, during something along this process. Anyway, as soon as I push test, the head will go over like it's going to try to print. It'll flash a red light, the pump will actually die off, and then the head just stops. So I'm going to put my old head back in just to see if maybe there's something wrong with the new head. Shot in the dark. Okay, so I just had a 2.5, well no, I guess it was close to a 4-hour conversation with Coldesi. They went through my settings. The tech that I talked to this time believed it was more internal with the software, had nothing to do with the boards or anything like that, which I spent, I'm into it $2,800 right now. But anyway, I've got my old board back there. I got my old main board back. The only thing that's new is that power board, which it turns out none of those needed to be fixed. He changed some settings. I'd mentioned earlier in the video that there was a glitch which kicked this whole thing off, and I was suspecting that had something to do with software. So the software back end was all effed up, so the tech had to like reset a bunch of the settings in there. But now it turns out that the prognosis is most likely this power cable, which I'd already replaced 3 months ago. I found a small crack in it while I was on the phone with the tech, and now I've peeled that open, and I can see that the yellow wire inside of it is cracked. So we're assuming that that's the problem now. At this point, they're going to try to send me out another part, the power wire. I'm going to try to splice this together and see if I can get back up and running. So a little update here. The yellow wire was the only one that was visibly broken, but because the gap between this wire and the other end of it was too big, I just decided to cut all the wires. So now I'm going to solder together all the wiring so they're all fresh connections, and it's not ideal, but it was better than having like a bend where, you know, I was trying to stretch this yellow wire to meet the other end of the yellow wire, so it put a bunch of backwards pressure on it. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and solder these, clean these all off, solder them all together here, and hopefully we're working finally $3,000 later and ungodly amount of hours later, so we'll see. And we're back in business. I cut that power wire clean in half because one of them had snapped, soldered them back together, taped them all up, heat sealed them, and we're back rolling. So that means I bought a headboard, a head, a power board, and a main board, all for no reason. But we're back up. So that ends this saga. Don't know if this helps anybody, but anyway, just a little behind the scenes of the print shop here.